Okay, so we just did a clicking task, so we have the clicking metrics. Pace is not a clicking metric, but it is usable in all the scenarios. And so this is what it would look like after you finish a clicking scenario and you're congratulated with your discovery, which is like Aimlabs AI, Aimlabs ChatGPT pretty much. And let's go over all the metrics. Pace of the name implies refers to your score during the whole run, and it detects like your best pace, which is the 6-second window in which you had your best score, and your worst pace, which is of course the opposite. But that's not all, of course. Like in this metric, which it's pretty self-explanatory, like it clearly is like your score being more stable here, and here it's shit. If you click on this button, which has like the discovery icon, and then this fucking amazing shit explains what it is you're watching, provides a visual representation of your score efficiency over time measured by the pace metric. On the x-axis, which is like the horizontal, you find the time elapsed during the run. Yep. While the y-axis indicates your score per second. Yep. And it gives you like the times where it was the best, the worst. And yeah, I forgot about that. You can click on like these specific moments, and then you can like rewatch it. You can obviously make it faster, slower. So like basically what this does is like it shows you your best and worst moment. Yeah, you select that 153, get good, pretty much. Eventually, what we're going to do, besides adding more metrics, this recommended task thing will recommend you tasks based on your weakness. So for example, let's say let's use the pace metric as an example still. If you're struggling with keeping a steady pace, for example, it would recommend you like pulse shot scenarios, which kind of makes it so that you're focused on keeping a steady pace or speed, and like being able to maintain that through the whole run. And in the times when it happens, like you can actually click on this. Like for example, it says for your best pace, you're gonna refer to these times, and then it's here, which were the timing where I had like the best pace in this case. So okay, pace is very simple, and it applies to all kinds of scenarios, because every scenario of course measures your score over time, so you can always refer to that to like know your best and worst moments. Okay, and then we have like the clicking specific metrics. Shot timing, let's say you're here, you're like, what the fuck does this mean? You can click on explain, and it's literally going to explain what it is and like what you should do. But pretty much it does this. So like this timing, what it means is that like after you reach a target, it's measuring how long it takes you to click on it, to like visually confirm you're on it and actually shoot, pretty much. So like it gives you your average, your fastest time, your slowest time. You can browse like by individual shots, and like the yellow line will indicate like your average. So like you know, like this one was way too slow, this one is extremely fast, etc. And yeah, it also gives you like specific moments if things are like better or worse, and you can navigate through them. And like you can actually see that here, for example, I reached the target and it took me like forever to click on it, but like this one is instant. So like if I go a little bit behind, I pretty much flicked and clicked with a 10 millisecond delay. So that's shot timing. Shot timing is usually for not usually useful for all the clicking metrics, including dynamic and linear and every type of metric. We're going to add in the future, of course, this is like the first release, we're going to add individual metrics or like personalized metrics based on the actual subcategory. So like this stuff pretty much applies to all types of clicking, but soon we will have like stuff that is more prevalent in static or in dynamic and stuff like that. Okay, path efficiency is very nice. What this does, is measure like your target prioritization, pretty much. So like the green line with the 1 indicates the targets that you chose and should have chosen because it was the closest target to your crosshair in that specific moment. And depending on the amount of targets, this can get higher, of course, depending on like the farthest one you chose. So like for example, in here, I chose the 4th farthest target, so that means my target prioritization was pretty bad because I should have chosen one that was way closer. And of course, you can also tell it to explain, and it like shows you what the whole graph does, what it means. It gives you specific moments. Like 1 signifies that you selected the closest target. A target minus 2 was the second closest, 3 was the third closest, and so on. So this shit is like extremely useful if it struggles with if the player is struggling with like proper pathing or target prioritization in general. And in the future, I want to get this to work by also detecting target movement. So like, for example, you're playing an angle shot scenario, and path efficiency doesn't only take into consideration that one target was closer to your crosshair than the other, but, for example, that it just strafed, so it was a more safe target to go for. So yeah, that's path efficiency. Flicking direction. Actually, before going to flicking direction, I'm going to go to underflicks and overflicks. This one is like the most... this one is like the classic flicking error or like metric. Overflicks and underflicks. I assume pretty much everyone watching knows what an overflick, an underflick, and a perfect flick would be. But if you don't know, you can always click on the explain button and let it think for a second. And it's going to explain literally what it is. Overflicks is where your shots landed beyond the intended target, so like you go past the target. The underflick, your shot landed short of the target, so like you stopped before actually hitting the target. And perfect flick, of course, would mean that you actually hit the target you were intended to. The cool thing about this is that you have your line of perfect flicks, so like, you know, every cyan circle is like a perfect flick. And you can also click on each individual second, pretty much, of the replay to like identify your underflicks or overflicks. And well, of course, you can, like, once you click on them and it shows you the exact moment it is, you can play it. You can play it in like a fourth of the speed if you want to. The how far up or down it is indicates like the severity of like how pronounced the underflick or overflick was. And that leads us to flicking direction. I wanted to go to underflick and overflick before that because this one also has them. Yeah, this one sort of combines the whole underflicking and overflicking idea and allows you to see what's like your worst flicking direction. Like the center of this pie chart that's divided in all these pieces would indicate like every perfect flick. So like those are actually not represented because it makes no sense. So like you know exactly what it is. But you have your overflicks and underflicks. You can also filter them, so like you can turn off the underflicks and only show overflicks or vice versa. And you have like your weakness bar. So depending on like how saturated or like how saturated is the like this red color, indicates that you have more errors on this specific flicking direction. And yeah, the distance from the center indicates like how severe the error was. And the positioning on the actual chart indicates like the direction. So like this one would be like a very severe underflick to like the left, pretty much. So like, well, in my case, my clicking technique is so amazing that like even severe errors appear small. You know how we do. But like, so like this one would be like an overflick, like starting from like your initial position to like when you started to flick. It would be like here. You have another underflick line like to the like that to the right. With all of this information, you like will have a very accurate way to like know what you're struggling with. And as I said, in the future, it will recommend you tasks. You can ask it to give you tips. So like, for example, let's go back to like the underflick and overflick one. So like, let's say you're struggling with underflicks and overflicks, and you're like, how do I get better at this? So like this thing will be like giving you tips. Tips will also be worked on, of course. Like right now it's giving you like pretty default answers, I'd say. But like here it's recommending you to work on your visual confirmation, focus solely on flicking, and other broad stuff, of course. I'm also working on that, on like giving coaching tips based on the specific metric, so on the specific error. Well, yeah, if you're, for example, missing a lot with your macro corrections, it will remind you like about the proper flicking technique of like the flick and the micro, and like you need to go faster, on the micro you need to be a little bit smoother, etc. And it will be like, it will give you like a lesson on how to flick correctly, pretty much. So that's it for like clicking. These four actually are the metrics for clicking, because I already said that pace is like one that applies to every category. So let's go to a tracking scenario now. Let's play the novice version so it's easier for me. As I said, we have the pace one again, because this one is global as it says here. And you have the same thing, like this one is showing you like your best moment, your best 6 seconds pretty much, and you can also check your worst one. By clicking here you are like teleported to like that moment in the replay. And we have like the 3 current, as I said, we're going to add more, of course, tracking metrics. I'm gonna go over edge tracking and smoothness first, because they are like very self-explanatory. Edge tracking especially is the simplest one, and the one we are definitely going to improve upon. But basically, for anyone that's new to Aimtraining, they're going to be like edge tracking. Maybe they can assume from the name it means to track the edge, but like maybe they are not fully capable of understanding what it means or why it's helpful. And here it's showing you like the amount of time you actually did it and the amount of time you didn't. So you go to discovery and be like, what is this? So it explains what it is, what it's measuring, like the percentage of time you're tracking wasn't on the ideal edge, opposite of the target movement. And this one is very self-explanatory. I want to add maybe like a visual representation that is closer to what the bot is in the actual scenario in the future, of course. But it's pretty much understanding the amount of time you tracked the edge versus the time you didn't. Pretty self-explanatory. Then we have smoothness, which is pretty simple. Pretty much what it does, the target is represented in red, and it's like the overall acceleration and deceleration it had. And the cyan represents you, or your mouse movement. And you have like the match. So ideally, of course, it's in practice it's impossible or close to impossible. You'd want it to be like a 100% match, because that would indicate that you are perfectly speed matching your target and being on it, or ideally, and like that would mean you have like an insane score. The one that's a little bit more complex is the prediction one. This one is extremely valuable in my opinion in all forms of tracking and target switching too. What it is detecting is the times. For example, let's say the target was moving to the left. Every one of these dots is showing you the exact moment in which you started going in the opposite direction before the target actually changed its direction. So like, you know, of course you can ask it to explain. And yes, it says here, the y-axis, so like how far or down each one of these spheres is, represents like the severity of the error. So like the ones that are closer to the center are like very slight. Like in that case, I kept going even though it changed directions. But like this one, for example, will be like a more severe error. Like it should be easier to see. Like I changed direction. Yeah, then I moved to the other side, like to show you. It was to show you guys, not because I suck. Don't worry. And like it explains what it is, like the times where you had your best and worst performance. Well, the total prediction counter, of course. And like then, how to avoid predictions, maybe. Yeah, the first one is obvious, of course. Keep attention to your target. Instead of anticipating where it's going to go next, watch how it's currently moving. And this one is very important. that the target will continue in its current direction and only adjust your aim when you actually see the target change its movement. This is like reactive instead of proactive. Yeah, amazing. But like this is like what an aim coach would say if you're like, bro, like I suck at tracking, I'm always flicking back to the target, whatever. Like this is like one of the best pieces of advice you can get, like in broad terms, of course. Like always you will receive better advice if you're like on a one-to-one session with someone, but like as general advice, especially for newer players, this is amazing feedback to have, like in the beginning of your aim journey, especially identifying patterns, tracking drills, solely focus on tracking, avoid tension, reflect on mistakes. It's like good advice, so I'm happy with it. Of course, it could always be better. As it is right now, it's good, and it will be even better in the future. So that leads us to target switching. Okay. Target switching is pretty much a mix of flicking and tracking. So what we did for now is having all the metrics, like the ones from flicking, that's why we called it flicking instead of clicking, and tracking. And in the future, we're obviously going to add more. The one I really want to add as soon as possible, particularly for target switching, is fully eliminating targets, like eliminating the target before moving to the next one. I did it a couple times in this run. That would be great to have, because it's very good advice that some people are oblivious to until someone actually points it. But yeah, it's pretty much measuring like your smoothness based on each individual target, your flicking direction, your edge tracking on each target, your underflicks and overflicks, of course the general pacing of the run, the path efficiency, so like sometimes I chose the second farthest target instead of the closest one, the shot timing, and the predictions, so like it was way less because of course these targets are always going in one direction. Pretty much we made like a mix of all the metrics. And as always, you're gonna ask Discovery to explain it, and the feature is going to give you even better tips. It's going to recommend you tasks based on your difficulty. Even further into the future, it's going to make you short playlists based on your difficulties. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Results Plus. Oh, and the old Results clean is still here. Like it's the same. Like it has like a small visual update, but it's the same as always. So that's pretty much it. So if you have any questions, let me know. The recommended task at the moment doesn't work based on your weakness. That's why I've been saying for the whole duration of this part of the stream that it's going to do that in the future. At the moment, it's pretty much a random recommendation of tasks. Yeah, it's based on popular tasks in similar aim categories. So like this one is like Verity's Valorant, so it's going to recommend you Valorant Ascent wall peaks, Valorant Ascent multi-peak, picking stuff, like stuff broadly related to Valorant. But like, give us some time. Yeah, what your guy already said. Like, Discovery is, well, like AI in general is going to get better and better with time. It can already make tasks, but that feature is going to be improved upon. Now it's very rudimentary, and like it can edit some tasks and stuff like that, but yeah, also that, not based on your weakness specifically. Can Discovery adopt me and provide free mental counseling? Sadly, AI, despite how powerful it is and will never be able to make miracles. So no, sorry. Can I make Discovery my girlfriend? No, refer to my original miracle comment. Maybe in the future we can buy some of the Elon Musk robots and make them Aimlabs waifus and sell them. Of course, this is for Aimlabs Plus. I know a lot of people would like this to be free. Sadly, that's not how the world works. Like, having this whole AI thing work is actually quite expensive. Plus, it was the work of actual people too. Plus, Aimlabs is already free. But soon, I'm not going to give you a specific date, but very soon, a lot of people will be able to try this for free. So you're just gonna have to be waiting and checking the Aimlabs socials, I guess. I'll probably also announce it once it's out, but you'll be able to try this. And if you end up liking it, you'll be able to subscribe and support the whole team pretty much.